welcome to the Hustle and Flow podcast.
A platform we use to explore varying perspectives and opinion through candid conversation.
We chat about philosophy, business, and all things life. I'm Shaun the Hustle.
And I'm Les the Flow.
Let's go.
All right, the guest today joining us on the podcast, his name is Cam Speck. Cam is the co-founder and president of Fitplan App, a dynamic mobile app helping people realize their goals and making their fitness ambitions accessible. Fitplan is the #1 personal training app, partnering with over 40 elite athletes and trainers, including Rob Gronkowski, Yanet Garcia, Alex Rodriguez, Jen Selter, and many more. He's a passionate entrepreneur, powerful leader, and a visionary. His focus is on creating optimal performance in individuals worldwide through his mission to empowering people in realizing their best versions of themselves. So with that, it's our pleasure to welcome you to the podcast, Cam. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that intro. That was epic. I hope I'm living up to everything you just shared with the audience, my man.
Man, you absolutely will. You absolutely will.
So Les has told us a bit about you, Cam, and I guess what we'd really love to hear is, how you've come to be Cam Speck of today, what you've been through, how you've built yourself into the man that we see before us today. And feel free to go as far back as you want, delve down any path you want. We just really want to hear more about your origin story and where you've come from, man.
Yeah, I'd love to share it, guys. So, I'd like to share pretty much from the very beginning as I kind of seen myself as this, insecure, skinny kid that was picked on in school. I was always trying to make my parents proud because in a lot of cases I was fucking up. I mean, I was, wasn't doing what they had envisioned me to do in my childhood and throughout my teen years. And it created a lot of insecurity around my value. And, I constantly, tried to make my parents proud because I always felt like they were never proud of anything I was doing. And everything I was doing was wrong based on their expectation of how I should be. And, I moved through that and played sports, and I played competitive hockey as a young kid. And, I kind of created an identity as a hockey player. And one of my goals was to be in the NHL. And when I was, I think about 16, I broke my foot, and I had a bunch of different surgeries and whatnot. And there was a long road of recovery ahead of me, and I had to really decide, is hockey going to be my career, or should I try something else? And I went into a deep spiral of depression trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, as my identity was so attached to a hockey player. I was Cam Speck, the hockey player. And once that was kind of stripped away, I was lost. And I got introduced to working out from a really good friend of mine that I played hockey with. And he says, man, I can see you're in a state of depression and you're really just uncertain about where your future lies. And for me, the gym is a really great release. So he took me to the gym, and, I was an active sports guy, but I was super skinny. I'm talking I wore glasses and had a chipped front tooth and I was 135 pounds soaking wet, just a rack of bones. Right. So I walk into the gym and I'm like, hey, what do I do? I could skate fast, and I was pretty agile because I was so small, but not really a lot of strength. So in addition to getting picked on at school, I got picked on the ice as well. So anyway, he introduced me to some weights, and it wasn't about I got out of that workout and I was like, man, I didn't lift a lot, but when I was lifting, I was in control of that process. I was in control of how I was lifting. I was in control of what I was thinking about when I was lifting that weight. I was in control of how my body and mind were connecting with each other. And it gave me this idea that, listen, I'm in control of my state. I'm in control of how I feel. And walking out of that gym, I felt so accomplished. I felt this release of energy that I'd been holding on to. And from that day forward, fitness became the foundation of who I am today. It, staying consistent with a fitness and nutrition routine just allowed me to perform better at anything I did and feel really good about myself. I was always doing something for myself. So, fast forward a couple of years, I got a job in a bar, and a friend was working at it, and he's like, man, like, you got to come check this out. It's incredible. Like, I'm working at this bar on Tuesday nights, and I'm a waiter, so I'm serving women, and there's great music, and the bar we're working at is bringing in like incredible acts, like, Ferry Corson at the time, and Armin van Buuren, and we booked that club booked Avicii when he was underage, like 16 years old and stuff. So it was really incredible. This is a pretty large nightclub out here in Calgary, Canada. And he's like, man, you got to come down and check this out. There's so much fun to be had here. So I went down and talked to the manager, and I had been in the gym for a couple of years now and put on a little bit of size. So I was pretty lean and had a little bit of muscle and a pretty decent physique, and, pretty much like the typical sort of avatar of like a male server in a bar, as you would sort of vision. And he said, we had a 5-minute conversation. He said, why don't you come back next Tuesday and we'll give it a shot? And I did. And I loved it. I loved the energy in the place. And I really liked the guy that hired me. I could see myself in his shoes down the road. He owned several bars and restaurants and a casino, and, he was young, good looking, great energy, very enthusiastic, positive, very nurturing and supportive too of young people. I could see him molding people through the industry. And, I was 19 at the time. By the time I hit my 20th birthday, I became a junior manager of that place. By the time I was 21, they had sent me over to another nightclub that was basically their staple nightclub of this organization. And it had taken a few hits, and they said, listen, can you go turn this place around? And I did. So I went over there, and, I was managing close to 100 staff members, and, I had 4 or 5 managers underneath me, and I got promoted to the general manager there. And then, fast forward one more year, myself and a couple of my friends that were working in that industry decided that we wanted to transition from the nightclub scene into the restaurant scene. We wanted a bit of a different challenge, and we were kind of getting over the late nights, right? The work till 4 a.m, Thursday to Sunday, and then Monday to Thursday, you're working all day promoting your club so that it was full. So it's like, a 7-day job and a very like taxing lifestyle. And at that point, I was missing all the family dinners and like all the trips and stuff that people were taking out of high school and getting into college and all that jazz. And I skipped that whole sort of space. But, it allowed me to like learn so much. And, we decided that we were going to buy one of the failing restaurants from our president of this organization. And he basically kind of gave it to us. He gave us the keys and said, turn it around if you want. It's a lost cause, but do what you want. So we went in there. That first year we lost like 300 grand. That very next year when we took it over, we made 300 grand. So a massive turnaround. And over the next 3 years, we made that place so successful that we were able to open up 7 locations across 3 different provinces. So that one location that was failing, we turned it around. We completely reinvigorated the culture and really what the brand stood for, redeveloped our values, and hired incredible people that cared about customer service, hired some really good chefs that cared dearly about food. And we were able to make that place a huge success. And, the one thing that remained consistent for me as I just blew through promotion after promotion as a very young guy, there's general managers and whatnot that were 20 years older than I was and been in the industry quite a bit longer than I was. And I was taking their positions and moving on and very quickly. And everyone was like, man, how are you doing this? Like, what is your formula? What's your secret sauce or your magic pill that everybody wants to take in their limitless? And for me, it was just always doing something for myself in the morning. And for me, that was movement. I was so consistent with my fitness routine, and I was so consistent with putting the right food and nutrition into my body. And those 2 things were like the foundation. And I would make sure I would do those on a consistent basis because it allowed me to just have the energy, the mental clarity, the enthusiasm, the productivity, at an all-time high. And so, going through this, when I started to move into the restaurant space. I was 24 years old, and people started to say, man, will you start developing like workout plans and meal plans for me, so I can, sort of emulate the process that you've gone through. Like, you're inspiring to me. I want to be a restaurant owner. And at that time I was, I moved myself into the managing director position of all these different locations. So I had equity in them all. The youngest equity holder in the history of that whole organization. And so I did. I would work all day, and I was super committed to making it successful. And I'd go home and I'd sit down at the kitchen table and I'd write out, this is like 2011, right? So I'm writing out like workout plans and meal plans on just sheets of paper. I'd hand them to people, and, they would put them on their fridge or whatever. And at the time I was living with my business partner, Landon Hamilton. We had met in the bar space. We became workout partners at that point. Anyway, we moved in together, and he was very fascinated with digital media and sort of design. And he started a little app agency in our house, and he was developing apps for music festivals, and he was developing apps for bars, and he was running social media for different people. And he had something really, really great going on. And, one day he looked at me as I'm like almost sleeping on the kitchen table trying to do these things, trying to write out these workout plans and meal plans, just out of the kindness of my heart, because I wanted to help people. He said, man, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. Have you took a look at the App Store, or have you looked online to find a software tool that can help you do this? And I'm like, man, what a good idea. Like, I was technically illiterate at that point. You know what I mean? Like, software to me, like, man, I'm like a restaurant owner. I know food. I know how to treat customers very, very well and create energy that people will come back and live in. But like, put me behind a computer, that's not happening. So anyway, he influenced me and invited me to think about it in a different way. And I did. And, we looked in the App Store that next day, and there was nothing really there. This was like, the App Store was super new. It was just emerging at that time. And it gave me this idea and said, wow, like, what an opportunity to create something out of this. And we did. That next day we went and incorporated the company. We called it Total Fitness and Nutrition. And our vision was to create a piece of software that gave people a workout plan and a meal plan based on their goals and credentials. And essentially we hired a developer that was going to code it in his basement. You were paying him like, I think, we paid him to build the app like 10 grand. We hired 2 models to do the exercise demonstrations for the workout plans. We hired a nutritionist to build the nutrition plans, and we built this app. And, we were both he was running the app agency, I was running the restaurants, and this was like a side gig for us. And 2013, it took us like 2 years to kind of build it. We were doing it as a side job sort of thing. And 2013, we ended up getting to a place where we wanted to launch this thing. And, it was a free app, and we launched it, and it immediately got some significant traffic. So we knew, wow, there's definitely a market for this outside of my friends that want my formula. And so, we at that point, social media was becoming really relevant, and there was all these fitness brands being born on social media. For example, there was, tons of people that, even some that we have signed right now, that, had hundreds of thousands of followers on their social media, and they were generating these followers by providing fitness guidance and nutrition guidance to people in their network. And, we, as we sort of evolved this business and thought about it as a more full-time role, we said, okay, this is great as a hobby, but if we want to sort of move on and transition out of our careers, we've got to be able to make some money with this thing. And, it was a free app, and we decided, well, listen, like, what goes hand in hand with, the exercise part and the nutrition part? Well, supplementation. People need to be able to recover. People need to be able to influence energy. People need to be able to sleep properly. So what if we integrate supplements into this platform? Everything's free except for the supplements. They have to, buy the supplements. And that's going to create this like whole package. And so we did. So we, went to work at finding a drop shipper and essentially an integration of, we could just integrate a supplement house into our product. They would do all the drop shipping, customer service, and all that sort of jazz. So at that time, this is late 2014, and we're were traveling to all these different fitness expos around the world to get FaceTime with these supplement distributors. And we walk into this fitness expo in Columbus, Ohio, called the Arnold Classic, and 85,000 people go through the doors in the 2-day event. So it's a massive event. And we walked in, and just lineups down the block, like massive lineups, hundreds of people in line. And we looked at this one line, and it was full of women. And we said, wow, like, let's go to try and navigate our way to the front and really see who this brand is. And as we navigate ourselves to the front of this line, it wasn't a brand at all. It was a female individual. And, her name was Michelle Lewin, and we had discovered her on social media. She was really pioneering the space in terms of this fitness influencer that's providing this guidance and these exercise demonstrations and even these snippets of workouts online. She was really the first one in her generation. And so we stood in line, and, we essentially sort of, created this pitch in line of how we were going to pitch her to come onto our platform. And, we had the Total Fitness and Nutrition app to show her, which had nothing to do with influencers and whatnot. But we were kind of saying, like, man, like, we're really missing personality from our platform. It's a piece of software, but we're trying to replace a personal trainer, but we really took the personal aspect out of it. Partnering with someone like Michelle would add that layer of personal touch, inspiration, and guidance. And we said, that's what we need to do. So we got in line, we waited in line, we went up to her with this impromptu pitch, and we just word vomited all over her. And she takes a step back, and she goes, no English, no English. Didn't have any clue what we were saying. Points to her husband, which looked like this mean bodyguard. He's the sweetest, nicest man ever. And she pointed at him, and we go over there and kind of told him what we're doing, show him the app and stuff like that. And he said, guys, this looks great. I love Canadians, and this is something very cool. Here's my card. Why don't you email us when you get back home after the event, because we're super busy and all that sort of stuff. And we said, yeah, no problem. We were super excited. Walked the expo floor, talked to several different other supplement companies and the athletes that represent their brand. And as we're going home, we had this aha moment and said, listen, man, like, I think we really need to think about co-creating a platform that has influence from personalities like Michelle and the other athletes that represent these brands, and even these other ones on social media that we've discovered. And that's when Fitplan was born. And we created this idea that we wanted to co-create a platform that was community driven, that influencers, fitness personalities, and trainers could distribute their workout plans to this ecosystem. And we would be this platform, this facilitator of this human connection of the trainers and their audience. And so that's what we did. And we set out to build this platform that, just empowered people to live a better life through health and fitness. I really wanted to create something that helped me, build the confidence and internal strength I needed to blow past any challenge. And I wanted to be able to give that same gift to everybody worldwide, give them the same opportunity as everybody to find and follow the best training advice from the most inspiring people on one platform. And that's sort of what we did. And we just kept growing the business. And we were so motivated every day by the success stories that started to generate by people from all walks of life, from all shapes and sizes and all colors. And they're expressing, wow, Fitplan changed my life. I had no confidence even going to the gym because I didn't even know how to do an exercise, but I can't afford a $300 personal trainer. But this app has given me the guidance and confidence to work out and feel good in my own skin. And, I remember success stories of people that lost 60 pounds. And my brother-in-law, for example, lost almost 70 pounds using the platform. And I'm like, this is really doing something that's changing the lives of people. And this is really what my purpose is. I love to help people live their best life. And that's really where it all began, man. And, we're staying true to our vision of just helping as many possible people as we can deepen their relationship with themselves so they can live their best life. And that brings us to pretty much today, man.
Amazing, man. You've had quite a journey so far and a lot of transformations throughout it.
Lots of transformations. I remember, and I remember when we moved, we started the company in Calgary, around 2014, when we were kind of pivoting the business. We got into this mobile accelerator in Vancouver, it's essentially like an incubator for mobile companies. because we really knew nothing. We were not tech founders. You know, we hadn't had experience doing this before. So we said, hey, let's lean on people that have some experience in this field. And so we got into a really established incubator in Vancouver. So, you know, I ended up like resigning from my career and telling all my buddies that we started these restaurants with, listen, guys, I want to move on and do something else that's really close to my heart. And it took some time to transition out of that because I was basically the guy that kind of hold that organization up at that time. And, you know, Landon, because he was kind of working from his computer, he headed out there 6 or 7 months before me and sort of got things going with the incubator. And then I had to make the call. You know, New Year's Eve of 2013 was my last day in the restaurant space. And, you know, I told my family that I was packing up and moving on, and I was, you know, going to really make a run at this mobile business. And they thought I was fucking crazy. They had to talk me out of it. They're like, you're making incredible money. You came from nothing and you're doing incredible things. And look what you've done and blah, 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 blah. You bought this house on a golf course and you got a girlfriend and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, they were super happy with, you know, what I had done. But for me, it wasn't fulfilling enough. I knew I had a deeper purpose to fulfill. And, you know, it was tough to say those goodbyes. And I packed up all my shit in my car and I drove to Vancouver. And then we kind of like made the run at it from there. So like tons of transformations. And the one thing that I really wanted to get across is I had to constantly reinvent myself. And when I got to Vancouver, I said, listen, like, this is a massive challenge. Like, what am I going to do to ensure that I'm able to persevere and adapt through all these challenges? And I knew I had to reinvent myself and become a better person. I had to shed these limiting beliefs and these insecurities that I had that were still programmed from my childhood. And the first thing I did was, you know, just immerse myself in reading and reading, you know, Eckhart Tolle and reading a bunch of different self-improvement books and whatnot. And I remember to this day, I go to this conference called the Superhuman Health Summit. And I'm sitting there and this guy goes on stage by the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he's talking about flow states and the championship blueprints. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? This shit is amazing. I'm like, you're telling me that you can scientifically put yourself into a state of flow, and it is just the most amazing state to be in. And as he's saying this, I was so inspired. I left the conference. I'm like, left the conference, grabbed my laptop, went to the beach, and I started like researching everything about flow states and all this sort of stuff. And I'm going through all these different web pages, and I get to this one web page called the Flow State Collective. And I read this guy's story, and this guy, Jiro Taylor, which is still to this day a mentor of mine, believe it or not, and a coach of mine. And I'm reading his story about he was trapped in this corporate world, and he was a headhunter for, you know, a really established banking company. And, you know, he was making tons of money and blah, 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 wasn't fulfilled. And he got himself out of the rat race and got into this like path of self-improvement and meditation, all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I want that. Like, that sounds like what's up. And he talked about flow states. And anyway, I go down and I write, you know, you have to apply. He's like, I only think a few people, you have to apply, and I'll get back to you if I think we're going to be a fit. He got back to me. I couldn't afford him, made a deal where he coached me anyway for like pay me someday sort of thing. He's like, I see something in you that's going to be very valuable for the world, and I want to help you express that in the right way. And you know, I'm tying it back to the biggest thing I did was started to work on my self-mastery journey when I transitioned from Calgary to Vancouver to start this company. And to this day, that's been the one thing that's held me in my power. It's helped me, you know, create synergies between my ego and my higher self. It's helped me, you know, get out of my own way and make decisions from the heart instead of just from the head. And it's been the monumental change in how I show up in the world and what I've been able to do. And that's been, you know, a reinvention of myself that goes on and on and on. And the journey never ends. The glory is in the process of the journey itself. So, yeah, man.
Absolutely, man. And like, Yeah, I can sort of attest to, the power of Jiro and, his leadership and his guidance. He too is, a leader and a coach of mine. And this is how, you and I met, mate. But I wanted to, like, we've heard this like incredible story of so much, like, success in whatever aspect you want to talk about it, external success, financial success, business success, and then this ability to be open-minded and curious enough to want to delve deep into finding truth and meaning and purpose and just the real essence of life and what it means to you as an individual. And like the foundation of all of this, you say it so nonchalantly, back in the day, it was just in the fitness, in the preparation, in this like taking care of yourself, this vessel, this body that we have. And like, it's such a simple thing, right? But it's foundational. It is foundational because without our bodies, without it working correctly, without it working at an optimal level and state, then it doesn't matter how many books you read, and it doesn't matter how motivated you might feel, it's not going to carry you anywhere. It's like having a really nice shiny car without an engine. Sort of, that's the analogy that I sort of put to it. So, I mean, how did you come to that? I mean, for me, it sounds like it's something that was, again, your whole journey seems like it was relatively, I guess, easy for you to come by this motivation, this clarity, this energy that you hold, Like, what do you credit that to?
Yeah, man. I say it as like it was a breeze, but man, was it a challenge. Like, when we moved from Calgary to Vancouver, we basically like legally squatted in this haunted mansion that had no electricity. It had electricity, but it had no heat. So Canada's cold in the winter, man. We had to plug in space heaters, sleep in like full sweaters and sweatpants. And we did this for 2 years. We didn't earn a single dollar from our business. Len and I put all of our net worth, every single penny into this business to get it off the ground. And that's what we committed to. And we said, listen, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. I think like what really happened in my earlier days with the fitness and nutrition is like, it allowed me to create the behavior of discipline. It allowed me to create the behavior of consistency. It allowed me to understand that there's always challenges that you're going to have to overcome. There's always these phases of adaptation that you're going to have to overcome. But, that's where the real work is. That's where, overcoming those challenges and like bypassing those obstacles and pushing through those hurdles is where you develop character. And I think like, as I was able to sort of set a goal and hit it, whether that was in the gym or that was in business or that was in life, set a goal and hit it. What ended up happening is I built this belief system that was strong. And every time I set out to do something and accomplished it, that belief system was compounding. So I created this like internal dialogue that I can do anything I set my mind to. And I truly believed that before I even did it. So it's like almost this notion of like, I'm speaking in this language, I already have it before I try and achieve it. And I think that sort of mindset and that sort of intention around, at that point, it was all about what can I achieve? What can I achieve? How can I push forward and stuff like that? And I want to be successful because I thought of it as a check mark or as a goal to hit or as a finish line. Where now, as I sort of have gone through this reinvention of myself so many times, is I see success as a process that is constantly just refining a process. Success is just going through the process in the most fulfilling, happy way and being okay with taking steps back to take steps forward, as long as you're holding your truest values to the forefront of your consciousness. And I think like, a few of those tools that I acquired along the lines have been able to make me who I am today and give me that belief system that I can really, do whatever I set my mind to.
Of that,
I'd like
man.
to talk. Yeah, man. I would actually like to talk around this idea of the process, right? And things that you spoke about being commitment and discipline. It's becoming more and more apparent to me that like everything is a process. I think especially as men who've come up in this world, you see success and achievement and this end goal in so many areas of like, hey, I'll become rich. Hey, I'll become really fit. I'll be jacked. Then girls will like me and, I'll be successful and then I'll get this car and then I'll really enjoy that. It's always like trying to get to somewhere. But the beauty is really in who we become during the process of trying to achieve those things. And then whenever we do achieve certain things or goals that we have, it is beautiful in a lot of ways, but then there's always something else after, right? We're always wanting, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what is really interesting to me and apparent from what you've explained of your journey is like you came to the realization of success in the process and really, honing your process. And it sounds to me like cultivating discipline, making commitments, and then having these values that you aligned with or really worked out for yourself helped you to stay in the motion of this process. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely, man. And I think like, it brings me to like something that's worked so well for me. Cause I started as that guy, like, I want to be super financially successful. I want to have this car and this house, and, wealth to me was the opposite of what my family had. Wealth didn't have cars or big houses, or when we went on vacation, we took our little tent trailer to a campground, like, so for me, I was like, okay, so that's not wealthy. So wealth has to be these fancy cars and these, very extravagant vacations and all these other things. So I was always kicking my success down the road, my happiness down the road. Oh, I'll be happy when I get this, or I'll be happy when I get this, when I generate this wealth, and I become the chain breaker of my family. And, now what I've been able to realize is success happens every single minute of your day. Success is in the moments of presence. Success is like, when you say success is keeping your word to yourself. Success is being in service of others. Success is taking care of yourself, because that's a form of self-love. And, now what I do, and I think like listeners would really, take a lot of value from this, is like, I only focus on winning the day. And that starts with winning the morning. So I've got like a routine that I follow. I get up and I take the dog for a walk to get fresh air first thing in the morning. I do my cold shower, I do meditation, I do my breath work, I do my journaling. And I'm committed to that practice because it makes me show up to do everything else at my best. I'm taking time out of my morning for myself. And after I check those things off my list, I put a W on my page. I just won the morning. That's success right there. That's success. And then I go through these mastery metrics of the things that hold me to my highest power throughout my day. And after I check those bad boys off in the right way, I'm not just I'm not just so fixated on checking shit off a list. I know that if I complete those action items, I'm going to be living in my truth, because there's expressions of gratitude on there. There's acts of service. There's random acts of kindness. There's quality time with my partner, like these, this calling a family member, that's calling a friend and showing appreciation. There's all these different things. It's not just like, hey, did you fulfill your digital marketing tab, like all that sort of stuff, right? So after I complete those things, I put another check on the page. I put another W, and I won the day. And when I go to bed at night, I shed gratitude to myself for winning the day. And for me, that's what success is, because if you win the day every day over time, that's going to become a habitual pattern for you. And you're going to constantly be enforcing yourself to do the most meaningful things that make you the most your own right every single day.
Yeah, man. I totally feel you, and you're speaking my language, just winning the day. Um, you know, learning that lesson myself, it completely shifted everything for me and my belief. So, you spoke about like the work and the belief, and keeping your word to yourself. That's success, and it really is. And one of the things I've learned is, our confidence is built by keeping the promises we make to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And your process and what you're explaining sounds like you're doing that every day. Right. And it's stacking. It's just stacking and stacking and stacking. And, you know, there's this concept of like the work and the belief and which one comes first. But they're kind of like back to this notion of this process, right? It's like this constant process of you do the work and you gain the belief in yourself. And when you have the belief in yourself, you can do better work. So you do that and then you get more belief in yourself and your confidence keeps increasing. And I just really want to highlight for people that, you've worked out a process that you're using on an ongoing basis. And it sounds to me like it's just getting better and better and better for you.
Absolutely. And that's what I said about in the beginning about it's always about refining that process. Like my routine, my morning routine and my daily routine is always evolving because I'm always evolving. I'm always growing. I'm always learning and I'm always adapting. And, the only thing we know that's a for sure thing in this world is change. Change is for sure. So you better be willing to adapt to that change. And always understanding that everything is happening for you, not to you, allows you to really put the right things on that page every single day. And it's not about what happens to you, it's about how you react. And I learned that at a young age. I'm in control of my state no matter what. So if I ever blame my emotional state on anything happening externally, I better check in. And, there's an analogy I go by for keeping your word and building that internal confidence that it kind of stuck with me because it made sense is, every time you keep your word to yourself, it's like a deposit in your bank account. And, you keep depositing into that bank account where it's going to start generating this residual interest. And it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. But every time you say that you're going to do something and you don't keep your word to yourself, that's a withdrawal and a withdrawal and a withdrawal. And after so many times of not keeping your word to yourself or other people for that matter, you're going to get into this negative balance. And it's going to be very tough to pull yourself out of that negative balance, right? I've had to do it before, and it's not as fun as putting the deposits into the bank. So, it's when I was younger, and I still think about this all the time, the biggest thing on my whiteboard was keep your word to yourself and other people.
Yeah, and perhaps that analogy sort of tells us a little bit about, what your, I guess, definition or perception of wealth is now for yourself, as an individual. And, like you mentioned before, it sort of has evolved from this collective notion of what, material wealth is generally seen as for most of us. We'll always go through the motions and have to experience it for ourselves, just like, our mentor Jiro did, just like Shaun and I have, going through climbing the corporate ladder and, high flying corporates in these big businesses until we figure out that it's not for us. And I always respect, people who realize that, but they experience it for themselves. And I always reflect on people like, say, Jim Carrey. He's one of those people who really have, reached the highest of highs in the public eye, in Hollywood, where he, was one of the highest paid actors in the 90s and the noughties. And he always says, he's quoted it several times, he wishes fame and fortune upon everyone so that they can figure out that it's not it. It really isn't it, And like, I want to go back to this notion and this point that you made before, mate, about this collective view of certain things, and this comes back to fitness as well for and what it was for you. Firstly, it was like a vehicle for escaping this sense of insecurity for yourself. And I went through the same thing. Shaun went through the same thing. We all had that phase as young men growing up and needing to measure up to some point, and for people looking from the outside in and seeing who you are, mate. Like, you know, you look like a model. You look like some sort of like Calvin Klein underwear model. You have the rig of a Calvin Klein underwear model. And, but like the interesting thing is what you learn from it is not so much about getting to that, you know, physical physique, but the discipline and then understanding that, you know, these sorts of things that you went and done for yourself, the hard work, the working out, like that was a choice for yourself. You chose to put yourself through these difficult periods, and it set yourself up for, like you said, that example of sleeping in the cold nights in Canada. You know, that sounds terrible, but again, it's like a recognition of the struggle that is inherent in life. But that creates a character for you to be able to traverse those, you know, in a solid, stout manner, you know, and come out the other side bigger and stronger, you know, physically and you know, mentally, spiritually, you know, in all aspects of life. So I really want to point that out. It's not just about, you know, getting buff and getting big and having this, you know, sense of confidence because you feel and you look great, you know, that's all part of it. That's like a foundational aspect of this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's about this sense of discipline and this acknowledgement and recognition that you know, we can't avoid, you know, the struggles in life. You know, we've been brought up in a world that sort of tends towards what is comfortable. We love what is comfortable, and we sort of gravitate towards that. But it's like for me, like one of the things that Zen Buddhism has taught me, and I've shared this with you as well. You know, a day without work is a day without nourishment, you know, and that's in the physical sense as well as the mental and spiritual sense. You know, if you're not doing some form of work every day, you know, every night, every afternoon, every morning, every moment, as you said, then, like you said, it's taking money out of that bank and not putting deposits in. So I really wanted to highlight that point. But yeah, amazing like words from, you know, your experience and how you've, you know, come to this point. You've married everything together really beautifully, and you know, I honor your journey to this point, and it's an honor to continue to walk with you, man. But yeah, I really just wanted to point that out for people.
Appreciate that, man. And yeah, that sort of quote that you shared with me hit home. And the day after that, I heard another one, and it said something along the lines of chop wood and build fires before you're enlightened, and chop wood and build fires after you're enlightened.
Totally. Absolutely.
So it's people, you know, and I hope they take a piece of gold from this, is like, there's no end. There's no start and beginning. There's only transition and cycles. And everything is a process. And once you start to lean into the process and understand like real beauty and real success and real fulfillment is how committed you get to that process, that's where the depth is really, really, really developed. Instead of thinking that the success is on the outside of the process or after the process, success is deep within the process. And how deep can you actually go within that process is the depth of fulfillment that you'll actually really see.
Absolutely. And like, I'd like to draw on another sort of quote or story. As I said, like, I'm a disciple of Zen, and I love everything about it. And, you know, it's one of those things that for me truly highlights, you know, the simplicity, but at the same time, the extreme challenge of life, you know, that is in front of us. And like you said, you chop wood and make fire before and after enlightenment. But at the same time, there's this story where a student sees a master, you know, doing the work in the gardens. And he's like, "What are you doing, master? Why are you working? You know, it's for us disciples to work." But there's no hierarchy or status, you know. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are in life, where you feel you've progressed to. They're just on a different part of the process or the journey, right? There's still work to be done regardless of, you know, how far ahead you feel you are or you think you are if you made it, or how many extra lives or moments you've lived in this life. So, yeah.
Totally. Couldn't agree more, man. And I want to touch on one thing that you did say. You know, I didn't want to like the fact that like, it's not that I'm not interested in cool cars and nice houses and being able to, you know, create liberty and freedom for my family and my next generations and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is when you get committed to the process, very committed to the process, you'll be able to buy all the cars and houses you want, because the value you put into yourself and the value you provide to other people will be accompanied by wealth. And if wealth to you means money, then great. But if you focus on money, you're going to create resistance around money. If you focus on value, you'll have all the money in the world.
Totally.
Yeah, man. I will completely echo that one, because, you know, especially at the start of my journey running my own business, it was all about the money, right? And you hear these things about, you know, providing value and being of service to others. And when you help people, you know, the money just flows. But it's very hard to grasp that when you're, you know, you're trying to make the money and you're trying to, for yourself, I imagine, get out of sleeping in multiple jumpers and in that haunted mansion, right? And for me, when like I'd spent all my money trying to build what I have been dreaming to build, and then you're like, shit, I need more money. But if you can actually just make that switch, man, like I know that you believe it from the way you said it and the energy you're emitting. I know you believe it, and I believe it too. And I know Les does, man. Like if you just commit to actually being of value, being of service, helping people, everything else comes, man. Like the money is the byproduct, it really is. And once we make that shift, like it just happens. And I think it's one of those things people just need to keep learning about and being exposed to, because I think it's also hard for people to acknowledge that when they're in a place where they're not feeling successful, right? Like the money's not coming. It's like, when is this actually going to switch over? Like I'm trying to be of service, I'm trying to help people, but I think it's a lot of that is also like, are you actually doing that? Or are you trying to like act like you're doing that, like make up some type of value, or try to look like you're being helpful, and it's like a cloak for what you really want, which is the money. Whereas if you can get, you know what I mean, man? And like you get past that.
Yeah. And I think like a tool that, you know, like when I was, and I learned this from my mentors early on, like when I didn't have any money, and it, you know, and everyone says, and you read it in every book, that like, you know, just provide value, the money will come. Provide value. Well, I don't have any money. Like I'm eating yams and like expired food from the market because I don't have any money. So how can I create this abundant mindset when I'm literally almost living in poverty? And that's when I really started to understand, when you have nothing, that's when you should give more. And you always have something if you're able to show appreciation and gratitude towards the small things. I got 2 feet and a heartbeat. I'm fucking a lot better off than a lot of people. I have a very capable body. I've got a mind that works tremendously. I've got a support system around me. I've got, it's a cold house, but it's still a house. You know what I mean? Like I've got people that believe in my vision. I believe in my vision. There's so much to be grateful for. And when you put yourself in a state of gratitude and appreciation, it will really shift you into that state of service. And when you're in that state of service, that's when you provide value, and that's when things take off. So, you know, I think like, you know, if there's anything I can get across the audience is there's tools to lean on from every state and parts of the journey that you're on. And fundamentally switching you out of a funk, put yourself in a state of gratitude and put yourself in a state of service. And the easiest, not the easiest, but an expedited way to generate wealth in terms of money is helping people around you reach their goals. If you help people around you reach their goals and you help people become better at what they're trying to do, you better believe that that's coming back tenfold.
Yeah. And I guess what you're doing right now with your business is testament to that, right? It's like helping people with their fitness and their health, like tangibly changes their lives in so many ways, right? And then that's why coaches that help people get results keep getting more clients and keep making more money, right? It's because they're actually serving people. They're actually helping them to improve.
Totally. Absolutely. 100%.
And I think, look, that coming back to this sense of value, or, you know, thinking that you have something to offer, I think this comes down to and boils down to like this level of self-worth, right? This worth for oneself. And like, you know, we've all gone through this, like insecurity is one of those things that you mentioned earlier on in your journey. And I was exactly the same, you know, and that what this gives you is a sense of a lack of worth in yourself. You don't have anything to offer, anything of value to offer to the world because you're comparing it to, you know, this collective view of success or this collective view of value, right? Then like when you remove this need to compare yourself and really just look inside, it doesn't need to necessarily, you know, line up with anything else in particular, and it doesn't need to be put on a pedestal. It is your own, you know, value and worth. And that in itself, if it's authentic and it's true and it's pure, that is, you know, that is like you monopolize that particular piece of value for yourself. And if you can operate and express that into the world, then like you said, you know, anything that you wish for, and if it's money that is seen as like, you know, that bargaining chip, that material of exchange for your value, then you'll get it. You'll get it if you want that, right? But I think I want to draw it back down to this point of authenticity and truth, you know, really believing it, you know, and not just like Shaun said, hiding it behind this guise of, you know, oh, I'm trying to help people, but really I'm just wanting to make money, right? There's a trust and a faith there that needs to be held, but like you will know that once you really feel what you have to offer to the world, you know, what you have to offer and be of service to the world. Like you said, Cam, like that word is key, right? Like if you truly feel you have something to serve the world with, that's it. Just that's full commitment. That's, you know, full dedication there.
Totally. And, you know, I've gained to believe that, you know, it's our responsibility
Absolutely.
to express our truth. And, you know, I got on one of my plant medicine journeys, I got a huge rude awakening. And, you know, it was one of the most challenging processes to go through in my life. But throughout all the darkness, there was the most beautiful piece of light and the most beautiful piece of wisdom I received. And it basically, you know, emerged as, for you to live in this state of almost bliss, it comes with 100% radical honesty to you and everybody around you. Not 80% honesty, not 95, but 100%. If you can commit to being so radically honest with yourself and the people around you, you are expressing pure truth. And that's your unique contribution to this world. We're the unique contribution. We are enough as is. If we're able to express our 100% truth, that's
Absolutely.
when power and magic really happens.
Absolutely. I mean, it is our duty, you know, it is truly our duty as human beings, as individuals, to express that fully and completely, you know. And I wrote a piece about this recently, you know, that if you think about, like, practically speaking and statistically speaking, we as humans, we're not supposed to be here. You know, it is the odds of us being here, born in the bodies that we're born in the places that we were born, in the circumstance that we were born in, and all of these things. I think it was like 400 trillion to 1. You know, these are the odds of us being who we are, right? So statistically, we're not meant to be here. But in a sacred sense, right, our duty is to fulfill this gift that we've been given, right? This is a gift. This is an honor. We must respect it, right? And for us not to do that, and if that isn't enough for us to, you know, fully live our truth 100% unequivocally, then really nothing else will be enough. Nothing else will be, right? So if you don't see it that way, then it's really a wasted potential, really, right? Because everyone has great value to spread to the world, but it's up to us whether we fulfill that potential or not through living this life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've I deeply, deeply believe that is our duty and our responsibility.
For sure. And one thing I noticed as well, Cam, that I want to come back to is from a very young age, from when you said you had that moment where you went to the gym and you came out and you felt like you'd learned that you could start to control yourself and your outcomes, right? After that, you talked about, you were working at the clubs, and then you wanted to take on a new challenge, and there was this restaurant within that group, right? That was fledgling, but you thought you could turn it around and build it into something. And then fast forward, and there was your app, right? Like you were doing fitness plans for people, and then Landon asked you about apps, and you went on and you saw there wasn't really anything. You kept identifying opportunities, right? That's what there's a thread I can see there. You've kept looking at things as opportunities. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, man. You know what? I've been asked that question a lot because it's I don't really know where I've developed that knack, but I look at absolutely everything as an opportunity, and I generate my biggest glory when people don't see the opportunity. I can see an opportunity within anything. You know what I mean? It's just kind of where my heart and soul goes. I always think like, I'm a very positive guy, so I always make the best of any situation, and I can always turn a negative to a positive, and you know what I mean? I can always see the silver lining, and I think just having that mentality that it's like, no, it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? It's only a problem. It's only a problem if you make it a problem.
For sure.
Absolutely.
A problem can become an opportunity. A problem can become a learning lesson. It's all about how you react, and it's how about you create a perspective around something. So I can't, put my finger on how I sort of developed that. I think it was, through a lot of years of experiencing and going through hardship and challenge and overcoming challenges and making them very, very fulfilling opportunities. And yeah, I mean, I've just got this ability to see things for what they are, but create this notion that I can transmute that with the right intention.
Yeah. And I think, that is absolutely like a blessing for someone to be able to see anything in that way. And it's a very stoic way of perceiving the world as well, really, really seeing through all the noise and the veil of what things might immediately be perceived as, or and then being able to understand what is within one's control to make whatever you want out of a situation, whether it's good, bad, or anything else, right? It simply is. Like these are things that many people these days, they find it difficult to do because we are so reactive to our emotional states that we allow them to direct our action and our resolve and basically dictate how we feel, for a lot of the time in our lives. I always use the example of road rage. If someone cuts you off, you have some opportunities or some choices to make, right? You can yell and be angry and really ruin your own day, but the outcome for the person who cut you off is no different. They don't really know what happened, right? They're not receiving the feedback that you're giving them. But again, there's like things that are outside of your control as well in that situation. Like, what if they were rushing to the hospital because they had an emergency? They're taking their wife to the hospital to give birth. All these sorts of things. There's like a knowledge and knowing that there are things that we just don't know. There are things in the story that we just don't know, and like, it's very topical right now, and I'll just draw on this example because it happened recently. Like, Chadwick Boseman just passed away recently, right? And then I remember, like, I don't read the news or anything, but what I heard from the past 4 years when he was battling colon cancer. No one knew that he was doing so. He kept it quiet. But there was photos taken of him in public where he was really, really skinny and looking really ill. And people made fun of him because he looked that way. But it just shows you everyone has a story. You just don't know the story, right? So like it comes back to this, level of control. What you perceive the situation in front of you and you experience it the way you do as an individual, but you have a choice to make it what you want to make of it. And that's it,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, totally.
I just want to add something to that, and in line with what you said, to kind of distill that as well a bit more, something you said, Cam, which is like, it's a problem if you make it a problem, right? But it's also an opportunity if you choose to make it one. And it's so true. Like, and your road rage example, it's a problem if you make it a problem, right? Like if you decide to get angry and then get onto that person, go through the window, make them roll their window down, maybe get out of the car if you get real aggressive, right? Like you've made that problem. Whereas on the flip side, it's also an opportunity for you to exercise a lot of different, mediums of control for yourself. You can exercise your ability to be, compassionate, thinking about what they may be doing or some circumstance that may be out of your control that you can't see that they're experiencing, right? You have the ability to flex that muscle, to choose to be compassionate. That's an opportunity to hone like a skill and an emotional skill. But we always have that choice. Like it's going to be a problem if we make it a problem, and it's going to be an opportunity if we decide to make it one.
Totally. You can always control how you react. You can't always control what causes the reaction. So
right.
if you think about that, I mean, like you can't control that person cutting you off or something like that, but you always can control how you react.
Yeah. And I think this is like a nice way, again, to use that analogy you use of making deposits or taking withdrawals out, right? Again, not even, day by day, not even morning by morning, but moment by moment. You have a choice. Like Shaun said, you have a choice there to either make a deposit or make a withdrawal. If you, exercise the emotions of anger and you go and cause a scene and you maybe hurt someone or you get hurt in the process, you're taking withdrawals out of, exercising that level of character and discipline that you're trying to, cultivate for yourself in being a solid and unwavering human being that needs a level of solidarity inside of yourself to traverse, the tumultuous world that we live in, right? For you to make a deposit is simply to step back, take a pause and reflect on what the situation actually is and just let the anger dissipate, feel it for 5 seconds and it's likely going to slowly dissolve away. And like I use the same example in my work. I'm a meditation teacher, and I would say that meditation is, yes, sitting on a cushion and closing your eyes, but every moment in life is an opportunity to try and delve into a meditative state, and that this we're talking about presence in every single moment, and like let me put it this way. This is probably the hardest thing for you to do in terms of like your checks and balances with this analogy. Like you're never going to be, making deposits into this bank of presence all the time. It is just impossible. But the point is, right, we try our best, and every moment we try to be present as much as possible. And the beauty is, even if you catch yourself not being present, that in itself is an act of presence,
Totally. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Cam, one thing I want to ask you about, where I imagine, with the success you've had and when you tell people about your progression, they really want to hear about how you've built this resilience, this commitment, this discipline, right? There's something that's come to mind that I want to ask you about, and it's like, I think it's easy for a lot of people to see someone like you and think you're just built yourself into this bad motherfucker, this machine, right? That just like, you go and go and go and go and go, but you said there've been hard times. And I want to kind of ask you if there's been anything that you've been able to identify that's knocked you off path more than once, if that's happened, and if there's anything you can identify like that, and then how you overcame it. Because, you know, a lot of us want to be someone who can go and go and go and go and achieve and achieve and achieve and achieve. But when you start to dig a little deeper, ask people to, you know, reflect on where they've been and things that they've experienced, you start to see that there's these detours. They get knocked off and they come back. We just don't talk about them. So have you had experiences like that? And is there anything you've been able to identify that's knocked you off track maybe more than once that people could look out for?
Man, I can't even count how many times I've been knocked down. And the point is that I get up one more time than I get knocked down. That's all. I get knocked down all the time. And I have no problem getting back up. I think that's the thing. And, you know, one of the deepest rooted issues or challenges that I constantly face that knocks me off my game is this sense of self-worth. It stems from my childhood. It stems from, you know, trying to make my parents proud and not doing a very good job. So I got into business so I could be the chain breaker and create financial freedom for my family so they would be proud of me and all these sort of things. And, you know, what I came to learn is that they don't give a shit how much money I make or how much money I give them or the business I build. All they care about is if I'm happy, because that's truly what makes them proud, is if I can say, I love myself and I'm happy with who I am and where I'm at. And so the advice I'd give is, you're always going to get knocked down. But the only way you don't get back up is if you give up. And I won't give up because I know it's my responsibility and my duty to live out my full potential. And my full potential is helping people evolve their human consciousness, right? To serve and support that philosophy. And I mean, I know that if I give up, I'm giving up on myself, and therefore I'm giving up on those around me. So it doesn't matter. You're going to get knocked off your game daily, weekly, monthly. It's never going to end. It's never going to end. But again, it's how you react. It's how you adapt to the situation, and just always get up. Always fucking get up.
Right. And what a beautiful way to sort of leave our audience with, man, you know, with that thread. Like, life is always going to knock us down, but, you know, we ourselves have the choice. We make the choice at every crossroads. And yeah, you're a absolute, you know, inspiring example of that. And I honor you, and I thank you so much for joining us today, man. I want to give you the floor and see if you can tell the audience about where they can find you, what you're working on, you know, what's coming up for you, all of that. So please share with the audience, man.
Yeah. First off, guys, thank you so much for, you know, bringing me on the podcast and allowing me to share my story and express my truth. And I hope that gave a little bit of insight and inspiration for others to do the same. And, you know, I just want people to understand that this is your journey. This is your path. You walk it in which way you want. You walk it in the way that makes you feel most fulfilled and happy. And that's what's going to create the most value and fulfillment in your life. And you can always find me on Instagram at Cam Speck, my company Instagram at Fitplan App. And yeah, man, I just love being able to express and build meaningful impact in the world. And, you know, we're all here to find our passion, to find our purpose, to find our hustle and flow, and you know, live a fulfilling and happy and nurturing life. Because, you know, life's short, man. We only get one shot, so make it your best.
Man, well said, and thank you. We'll put all the details into the show notes. And man, I think people should, you know, definitely give Cam and his business a follow. I'm sure there's you know, massive things coming up that are going to be game changers for all of us. So, you know, get locked into that. Shauno, where can people find you, mate?
Yeah, easiest place to find me is just on Instagram. So Shaun_Coop, that's SHAUN_COOP. You can hit me up there, send me a message, we can chat. And how about you, Les?
Yep. You can find me on my website, findingspace.co. You can always send me an email or say good day through there. On all the socials, Facebook and Instagram, it's also at findingspace.co. You can also reach Shaun and I through our email address, thehustleandflowpodcast@gmail.com. If you've got any questions about this particular episode or any past episodes, if you want to, introduce yourself as a potential guest or anything else, you can just shoot us a line there and say good day.
And guys, if the humble request, if you took anything from today, and look, I know you did. I know you took a lot from today. I've got a list of notes here. You guys couldn't see. I'm just off screen here, just scribbling notes, man. There's a lot of things here that I wrote down that you said, Cam, that I'm probably going to hit you up about later. And I just really want to acknowledge you for expressing your truth the way you do, the energy that you bring, and being 100% honest about who you are, where you've come from, and what you're trying to do. And I think it's really inspirational. It is. Like, it's truly inspirational, like inspiration, the word is like in spirit, right? And you can feel that when we're talking here with you. And they say it's highest human act to inspire, right? And you're doing that. So I really want to acknowledge you for that. And thank you for taking the time. So
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
If you took something from today, which I know you did, just please share with one other person, help them out with some knowledge, provoke some thought, get this into the ears of other people. And until next time, guys.
See you later, guys.